Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm very excited because I'm going to be doing my September of 2021 book haul. I've got a lot of books that I've accumulated recently, all pretty much very, very spooky. I'm gearing up for spooky season. I wrote some new releases in here that I can't wait to dive into and read, and I can't wait to share them with you. Quickly, just want to shout out this shirt that I'm wearing. This is a shirt my stepdad actually got me from the Slaughtered Lamb Pub here in New York City, and I adore this bar. But what's really cool is that it is themed after the iconic 80s film American Werewolf in London. If you've never seen that film, I highly, highly, highly recommend it, especially because this bar is like right off of the NYU campus, and in the film it's NYU students traveling abroad to London who go to the Slaughtered Lamb Pub. So I think that's really, really fun. It's got a lot of like animatronic werewolves and like a creepy vibe, and it's just so much fun. So yes, wanted to shout that out before we dive into the book haul. And yeah, so for this book haul, I purchased all of these books with my own money except for one. One was sent to me by the author in exchange for an honest review. I will tell you guys which one that is as I get there. But yeah, let's dive right on into this. So I have 9 books for you guys today. I'm very, very excited about all of them. Some are a little different than what I would normally haul, but they are this time all in like the horror, macabre, thriller genre. I don't believe I have any like crime. I have one that I think might fit into like the crime drama, but the rest do not. So let's dive right on in. So first up, I have Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon. I think that's how you say it. I have heard many, 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 many things about this book. This book is one of those things that always pops up around the fall season as we're preparing for Halloween. It's like one of those books that you should probably read. I believe it was written originally in the 70s or 80s. Thomas is an actor who then decided to start writing in horror, and this is his best known work. So let's read the back really quickly. After watching his asthmatic daughter suffer in the foul city air, Theodore Constantine decides to get back to the land. When he and his wife search New England for the perfect 19th century home, they find no township more charming, no countryside more idyllic than the farming village of Cornwall Coombe. Here they begin a new life, simple, pure, close to nature, and ultimately more terrifying than Manhattan's darkest alley. When the Constantines win the friendship of the town matriarch, the mysterious widow Fortune, they are invited to join the ancient festival of Harvest Home, a ceremony whose quaintness disguises dark intentions. In this bucolic hamlet, where bootleggers work by moonlight and all the villagers seem to share the same last name, the past is more present than outsiders can fathom, and something far more sinister than the annual harvest is about to rise out of the earth. Somebody described this to me as like that, like, I think it was from the 60s, the show Green Acres, but horror, and that kind of sold me because I really do like Green Acres. It also gives me like Pottsfield, is it Pottsfield or Pottsville? I think it's Pottsfield Harvest Festival vibes from like Over the Garden Wall, where they go and it's like all like the pumpkin people. So yes, very, very, very excited to this. I'm hoping to read this either later this month or in October sometime, but definitely a book I'm going to get to very, very soon. Next up is the latest release by Darcy Coates. This came out just a few days ago as of when I'm filming this. This is The Haunting of Lee Harper by Darcy Coates. So I just finished up my 5th Darcy Coates book. I read The Carrow Haunt, and I'm going to talk about that in an upcoming author spotlight on Darcy Coates. But I am just constantly impressed with Darcy Coates. I think she's written one book that I wasn't a huge fan of, but I've loved everything else. So I'm really, really excited for this. This is her 2nd book of the year. The Whispering Dead was released earlier this year, and this is her 2nd release. And I don't know anything about it, but I just saw that Darcy Coates had a new book out, and I bought it blindly. So let's read what it's about. So it says, sometimes the dead reach back. Lee Harper's quiet suburban home was her sanctuary for more than a decade, until things abruptly changed. Curtains open by themselves, radios turn on and off, and a dark figure looms in the shadows of her bedroom door at night, watching her, waiting for her to finally let down her guard enough to fall asleep. Pushed to her limits but unwilling to abandon her home, Lee struggles to find answers, but each step forces her towards something more terrifying than she ever imagined. A poisonous shadow seeps from the locked door beneath the stairs. The handle rattles through the night and fingernails scratch at the wood. Her home harbors dangerous secrets, and now that Lee is trapped within its walls, she fears she may never escape. Do you think you're safe? You're wrong. So I don't know. I feel like most of Darcy Coates' books, except for probably The Whispering Dead, take place in like a haunted manor or a haunted house or some kind of haunted location, and that's like, you just go from there. But I think her haunted house stories are really interesting. I think they're really, really creative. I really enjoyed the book I just read. Like I said, Carol Haunt, I thought it was a really cool, unique spin on a haunted house. Mainly because it was a hotel, so that's kind of cool. Very H.H. Holmesy. I love The Haunting of Ashburn House, as I've said a ton on this channel. So very, very excited about this. Again, Darcy Coates very rarely lets me down. I wasn't a fan of Blackwood House, but that's pretty much the only book I didn't enjoy from her. All right, next up, Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So if you don't know who she is, she wrote the critically acclaimed Mexican Gothic that came out last year. And this is a reprinting of her vampire novel that I believe was released in like 2017 or something like that. After the success of Mexican Gothic, I believe it was Tor Nightfire. Yeah, they were kind of like, we should really get on this. Like, she does some good work. Let's make sure people know it. So I picked this up, and it says, "Welcome to Mexico City, an oasis in a sea of vampires. Domingo, a lonely, garbage-collecting street kid, is just trying to survive its heavily policed streets when a jaded vampire on the run swoops into his life. Adol, the descendant of Aztec blood drinkers, is smart, beautiful, and dangerous. Domingo is mesmerized." Ooh, that reminds me of... what was that book I read earlier this year? But this sounds similar to that premise. Adol needs to quickly escape the city, far from the rival narco-vampire clan relentlessly pursuing her. Her plan doesn't include Domingo, but Adol finds herself warming up to the scrappy young man and his undeniable charm. As the trail of corpses stretches behind them, local cops and crime bosses start closing in. Vampires, humans, cops, and criminals collide in the dark streets of Mexico City. Do Adol and Domingo stand a chance of making it out alive, or will the city devour them all? I'm excited for this book. Mexican Gothic I thought was a very unique read. I don't necessarily know if I would consider it the most Gothic of Gothic things. It's definitely this kind of like new wave of Gothic that we've been seeing. Like The Lost Village, I felt really played up similar tones as Mexican Gothic. But this seems more like Matrixy and like fast-paced and like, I don't know, Underworld Blade. So I feel like it's going to be a very, very different tone. So very, very excited to read this one. And it's really short. I really thought this was going to be much longer, but it's like less than 250 pages it looks. But very, very excited for this. Okay, so next up, this is Tales of Mystery and the Macabre by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is the Tales of Mystery and Supernatural collection by Wordsworth Editions. I have a billion of these, and whenever I see them, I just pick them up because I think they're beautiful. I love the editing and the forewords and the afterwords on these. And they have some really unique stories from a lot of Gothic traditional classic authors that I feel don't get talked about as much as the greats like Hawthorne and Poe. So whenever I see these, I pick them up. This one is edited with an introduction by David Stewart Davies, which is just kind of an unfortunate name, but I really, really love his edits, and I really love his introductions, especially to these editions, and I love how pretty these are. These, just so you know, this edition doesn't exist anymore. They're printing a different cover now, even though you can still get this book. These are the covers I look for. There's a few I don't have, but I do have most of them, so whenever I see them in like used bookstores, I pick them up. So let's read this. Okay. Elizabeth Gaskell is better known today for pioneering social novels such as Mary Barton, but she also wrote such fascinating tales of the supernatural and macabre, which are collected here in this volume. The real charm of this dark anthology is its variety. Unlike so many writers of this kind of material, Gaskell allows the story to fit the style rather than the other way around, and as a result, there is a charming freshness to each tale. This remarkable author uses different voices, tones, and topics to engage her readers, and as you turn from one story to the next, you cannot be quite sure what to expect. I think I may have read one of her short stories years and years and years ago, but I don't actually remember. So I'm just really, really excited. I did really go into this very, very blind, but I've heard her name mentioned a couple times in like the Gothic horror community, so I really just wanted to pick this up, and I love these editions. Okay, next up. So this is the one book that was sent to me. This was sent by the author Chad Nicholas in exchange for an honest review, and this is his latest release, Shade. And it says all they had to do was catch him. So let's read the back real quick. So it says all they had to do was catch him. At first, it was just another case, another serial killer to stop. They had done it countless times before. This time shouldn't have been any different. But soon, days turned into weeks. Desperation set in, and the victims started getting younger. What were they missing? Why couldn't they save the victims? They would have given their own lives just to stop the monster to finally put an end to his killing spree. In the end, they almost succeeded. But then, 8 months ago, everything went wrong. From the aftermath of one monster, a new one is born, a killer more lethal than they could have possibly imagined, like something ripped straight out of their worst nightmares. With it comes a new potential victim, struggling with the skeletons in her own closet, the guilt of past mistakes. And the longer she waits for the new monster to find her, to kill her, the more she questions if deep down she wants him to. The desperate hunt for a serial killer, an ex-soldier losing his grip on reality, and a victim who's not sure she's worth saving come together as past and present intertwine in this explosive psychological thriller, which begs the question, can you stop a monster without becoming one? I think this is a really interesting premise, especially if it is going to focus on more of like the psychological struggles of these main characters apart from the serial killer. I've definitely spoken about this a lot. I really like when horror novels and thrillers really highlight different types of mental health, because I think it gives us a room and a space to chat about them. So I am very excited to get to this book and read it, and I really do love the interior of it. You've got like the do not cross police tape up here. This reminds me of Mina and the Undead, and how that novel was kind of like laid out and structured with like really cool little like just details in the pages, and I think a lot of indie authors are doing that recently, and it really sets them apart and shows that they really care about the presentation of their book as well as what's inside of it, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, and I like the cover. It kind of reminds me of like a Junji Ito kind of vibe. It's really cool, so very excited to read Shade. Thank you again, Chad. Okay, and this. So I will be doing a buddy read later with Black Acre Doe. He's the one who told me about this. Not sure if it's going to be, I'm not really sure, but it's about to be honest. But he was like, this looks so gothic and up your alley that we have to check it out. And he is so right. Look at this cover. This cover is so beautiful. So this is Inheriting Her Ghost by S.H. Cooper. Look at these Irish wolfhounds. They're so cute. And the back, look, the back is also pretty with this like filigree up in here. Ah, love it. And so the back says, inheritance often comes with strings attached, but rarely are they as tangled as those hanging over High Hearth. When Eudora Fellows learns she's the sole heir of her estranged great-aunt's seaside manor, she believes it will be the peaceful escape she longed for. What awaits, however, is a dark legacy shrouded in half a century of secrets, and it doesn't take long before Eudora realizes she's not the only one to call High Hearth her home. Ooh, super cool. So again, ghosty, gothic, with this amazing artwork. Like, I would frame this as a print. This is so pretty. So, very excited. I don't know anything about S.H. Cooper, but we're going to dive in later and see what we think. Okay, so this is my only book on this list that is non-fiction. I'm very picky with non-fiction. I read a lot of Chuck Klosterman, which is a lot of pop culture criticism. I have like a whole little section for him back here. Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. It's my favorite thing by him, if you're interested. But apart from that, I read a lot of like morbid dark fiction. Like, I tried to get into Erik Larson, like Devil in the White City, and I just kind of fell apart for me. And Dr. Mutter's Marvels. Like, there's definitely some more morbid, macabre topics that I like talking about and reading about and learning about. But Edgar Allan Poe is probably the #1. So this is The Reason for the Darkness of the Night, Edgar Allan Poe and the Forging of American Science by John Tresh. This is going to be a unique biography of Poe, unlike all of the other ones that have been out there. I've read a lot about Poe over the years. He is one of my favorite authors of all time. Him and Stephen King are both up there at the very top. So I'm very excited to read this one. So let's read the inside cover. So it says, decade after decade, Edgar Allan Poe remains among the most popular of American writers. Correct. He is beloved around the world for his pioneering detective fiction, tales of horror, and haunting atmospheric verse. But what if there was another side to the man who wrote The Raven and The Fall of the House of Usher? In The Reason for the Darkness of the Night, John Tresh offers a bold new biography of a writer whose short, tortured life continues to fascinate. Shining a spotlight on an era when the lines separating entertainment, speculation, and scientific inquiry were blurred, Tresh reveals Poe's obsession with science and his lifelong ambition to advance and question knowledge. Even as he composed dazzling works of fiction, he remained an avid combative commentator, ooh, that is so hard to say, on the latest discoveries operating in literary scenes that also hosted the era's most prominent scientists, semi-scientists, and pseudo-intellectual rogues. As the newspaper Weekly Universe put it at the time, Mr. Poe is not merely a man of science, not merely a poet, not merely a man of letters. He is all combined, and perhaps he is something more. Taking us through his early training in mathematics and engineering at West Point and the tumultuous years that followed, Prynne shows that Poe lived, thought, and suffered surrounded by science, and that many of his most renowned imaginative works can be best understood in its company. Poe cast doubt on perceived certainties even as he hungered for knowledge, and at the end of his life delivered a mind-bending lecture on the origins of the universe that would win the admiration of 20th century physicists. Pursuing a unique aesthetic vision, he reimagined a figure of explosive contradiction. He gleefully exposed the hoaxes of the era's scientific fraudsters, even as he perpetuated hoaxes himself. Tracing Poe's hard and brilliant journey, The Reason for the Darkness of the Night is an essential new portrait of a writer whose life is synonymous with mystery and imagination, and an entertaining, erudite tour of the world of science, of the world of American science, just as it was beginning to come into its own. Good Lord, is that long? And there's so much. There's so much like written on the back in the tiniest font. But I am so excited about this. Like I said, I adore Poe. I don't know when I'm going to get to this because I really have to be in a mood to read nonfiction, especially a hefty nonfiction book. Like, this is like 400 pages long. So I'm not sure when I will get to this, but I'm really, really excited about this. I think this is a really interesting take on Poe, and I'm so happy I found it. I was just in Politics and Prose, and this was like on their recommended table, and I was like, I'm going to pick this up because that's my guy. Okay. So I have 2 more books, guys. Obviously, I had to pick up Billy Summers by Stephen King. This is Stephen King's latest release. Also, like Darcy Coase, it is his second release of 2021. I did read Later earlier in the year, which was his March release. I do have a full review of that, which I will link up above. But this is his latest. It came out in August. I know it's September, and I probably won't read this until like November or December, just because I have so many other things that I want to read. And this novel doesn't speak to me the way that some of the other stuff I have, prepared to read does. But let's read the back. It's Stephen King. He's my favorite author ever, and I love him. So, it says, Billy Summers is a man in a room with a gun. He's a killer for hire and the best in the business. But he'll do the job only if the target is a truly bad guy. And now Billy wants out. First, there is one last hit. Billy is among the best snipers in the world. A decorated Iraq war vet, a Houdini when it comes to vanishing after the job is done. So what could possibly go wrong? How about everything? The spectacularly riveting novel is part war story, part love letter to small-town America and the people who live there. And it features one of the most compelling and surprising duos in King fiction, who set out to avenge the crimes of an extraordinarily evil man. Billy Summers is about love, luck, fate, and a complex hero with one last shot at redemption. You won't put this story down, and you won't forget Billy. Not gonna lie, but did anybody see The Gemini Man with Will Smith? Because the first half of that really sounded very similar to the Gemini Man plot. But no, I'm not sure what this is about. I really like the cover. I think it's a very striking cover, and I'm really very excited to read this. I just don't know if I'm gonna get to it soon. I've got a lot of King books that I am reading this month and in November, possibly in December. So this I will get to, but I gotta work my way up there because I have so many other books that I have to review as well that have recently come out, but I will definitely be getting to it soon. Probably a little later than soon, but eventually. Okay, and last but not least, this is The Hour of the Witch by Chris Bajalian. I have no idea how to say it. He is the author of The Flight Attendant, which apparently a lot of people like, and this is a signed Strand edition, which definitely is one of the reasons that I decided to pick this up at the Strand. But what really sold me is the premise of this as well as this cover. So let's dive right into what it is about. Boston, 1662. Mary Deerfield is 24 years old. Her skin is porcelain, her eyes delft blue, and in England she might have had many suitors. But here in the New World, amid this community of saints, Mary is the second wife of Thomas Deerfield, a man as cruel as he is powerful. When Thomas, prone to drunken rage, drives a 3-tined fork into the back of Mary's hand, she resolves that she must divorce him to save her life. But in a world where every neighbor is watching for signs of the devil, a woman like Mary, a woman who harbors secret desires and finds it difficult to tolerate the brazen hypocrisy of so many men in the colony, soon becomes herself the object of suspicion and rumor. When tainted objects are discovered buried in Mary's garden, when a boy she has treated with herbs and simples dies, and when her servant girl runs screaming in fright from the Deerfield home, Mary must fight to escape not only her marriage, but also the gallows. Twisting, tightly plotted thriller from one of our greatest storytellers, Hour of the Witch is a timely and terrifying novel of socially sanctioned brutality in the original American witch hunt. Not gonna lie, I picked this up because this reminds me of the Scarlet Letter and the Crucible. And that's kind of it. I don't know anything about this other than this premise, and I really, really adored this whole concept. I feel like it's gonna be very pro-women, very feministic, and very puritanical, and I'm very excited about that. I love going to Salem. I try and visit Salem every single year, and I love the history of Salem, and I'm very fascinated with how people were villainized during that time for their beliefs and their actions, and like led and sped on by the greed of the other people that were accusing them. So I just find all of this fascinating. I've read that this is a very, very, very slow burn, so this book might not be for everybody, but I'm super pumped on it. Anyway, that is all of the books that I have for you guys today. These are all, again, my most recent purchases, and of course Chad Nichols did send me Shade, but I'm so excited for these. I do have a bunch of new releases in here. I'm trying to get through as many of them as possible. I have so many books just piled up that I have to read, and I'm really, really just trying to get more like 5 to 8 books out a month and see what I can do with that. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. I post every Monday and Thursday, and now sometimes on Saturdays. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Mwah.